The Jazz need to shut up. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the More Than Philly Sports Network. It is great to be here with all of you tonight. It is 7:20 p.m. here on the East Coast. It is Thursday, March 4th, 2021. Just 1 week from today. Make sure you stay tuned. We have a very exciting show for you. It was just a year ago to next week that the world as we knew it completely changed from then until now and then some. For those who may not know what I'm talking about, the irony of talking about today's show, Utah Jazz player Rudy Gobert testing positive for coronavirus. Next day, Donovan Mitchell did. Look, we talked about it in great detail back in July. We covered our bases, of course, during New Year's. But, yeah, next week's going to be an interesting show. It's been a year, 51 weeks today. It's been a crazy year, Gavin. I think that's an understatement. I think that's beyond an understatement of what's been going on the last year. But we'll get to it next week. Just a little self-promo to plug to start the show because why not? But in all seriousness, Gavin, it's great to be back here. I know it hasn't been that often. We've been doing standard, regular, More Than Philly Sports talk show style live streams. We've been really focusing on a few other things now and some other things down, some sound bites. I've been having a blast with it, but as always, it's great to be here on our live streams. However, as I always have to start off, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Zach. And listen, next week is the infamous day where Rudy Gobert tests positive. And Zach, this is a little personal for me right here because the week after that, it is the day that our school board finally decided to close the school. And I don't know where Zach went. But starting off, Sixers versus Jazz last night, we had a game of the ages, probably the best game of the process, where Joel Embiid took over, hit the dagger shot, and then Tobias Harris took over in overtime. You good, Zach?
I'm here.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been crazy what's going on. Not just besides my internet, but when it comes, look, I'm not someone who's going to sit here and talk about like the whole, like we all know about the shut up and dribble story, and we know about things like that when it comes to some off the field issues, off the court issues. My mistake, but circling back to, of course, the coronavirus. Stay tuned for that next week. But talking about last night's game, I'm not going to say I'm livid like some Sixers fans are. I think Donovan Mitchell had some points that he brought up that I'm not going to say he didn't have a right to say. I'm not throwing a water cooler at a security guard in a period. I talked to him and apologized, of course. Unnecessary behavior, but we're all human at the end of the day. If it was just a four-quarter game, he wouldn't have been ejected. He got his text in overtime, which obviously showed the frustration and the emotion that he went through. But in all seriousness, and yes, there's the phone as always, but in all seriousness, as we continue to break this down, Donovan Mitchell brought up some points about the reffing, officiating. He's not wrong in some areas. I'm not sure what specifically he was pinpointing last night, but that wasn't the only game last night that had some controversy in it. Montrezl Harrell also had received a technical by yelling N1 when he had a failed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a failed dunk attempt. He yelled N1 and got teed up for it. Let's think about the circumstances here. These are NBA players. I get it. They're playing in empty arenas pretty much. In California, it's 100% empty besides the coaching staffs and medical staffs and anyone that's helping run the show, but there's no fans. It's close to street ball, and you hear N1s yelled in street ball, of course, but this is nothing new. Are refs getting softer? Is officiating getting softer? Is the NBA getting softer? I think so. I think it's disgusting the fact that Seth Curry foul last night's even a shooting foul. I think, honestly, if that does happen, I would rule it an inadvertent contact foul, and I'd give the team the ball, but I wouldn't give them free throws. That's a rule suggestion. Of course, it's highly subjective, but if you lean into somebody, that's not a foul. There was a play where I think Donovan Mitchell threw the ball, and it hit an official who was out of bounds. Therefore, the ball was out of bounds. I mean, there's a lot of flaws to officiating. They can't be perfect. You can't expect it. Utah's acting like they're the lost child. They're acting like they're the one that's getting the short end of the stick every day. You're first in the West. You've had everything go your way. Shut up. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I think they need to be humbled a little bit. And we saw this with the Pittsburgh Steelers when they were 11-0. Remember Chase Claypool tweeted, "Losing, never heard of her." People are getting mad at him once they started losing some games. I think honestly, you take a look at this Utah Jazz team. Donovan Mitchell, good guy. Rudy Gobert, good guy. These are a bunch of good players. They're really good. Donovan Mitchell was insulted early in the season by I think it was Shaq who said you don't have what it takes. Maybe Charles Barkley, and I think it was Shaq. And Donovan Mitchell has responded for that. And of course, the Rookie of the Year jokes are, I mean, that's water under the bridge. Donovan Mitchell really doesn't care about that. That is just an Adidas ad for those who don't know the full story between Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell. But I don't know. I don't think Mitchell was frustrated with the Sixers, and that's all obviously happy to hear. His frustration lied with the officials, and of course, like he had said, I'm gonna quote not just what he said on the negative side, but he did say credit to the Sixers for playing a hell of a game. We'll get to how awesome Joel Embiid's step back three was in a minute. But Gavin, what are some of your thoughts and reflections on number one, what Donovan Mitchell said about the officiating, how you feel like the officiating went in the Sixers game, and then of course we'll wrap it up with Montrezl Harrell and the officiating in that Lakers game.
Well, first of all, Zach, if you watch Donovan Mitchell's actions in the overtime game, Zach, he was doing some, I want to say some things that you're asking to get a technical for. I know Joel Embiid kind of egged on the first one. As much as I love Joel Embiid, he kind of egged that first one. I was saying, basically you're going to get it. Yeah, are you going to let him get away with that? But Zach, the first one where Rudy Gobert was just, I wouldn't say barely touched Joel Embiid, excuse me, and Donovan Mitchell was jumping up and down. I get that, all right? That's a frustration technical foul. All right, the stakes are high. You don't want to lose. But it's the second one that I'm having a hard time picking up. Because, I don't know what it was said. All right, my TV is not as great. All right, I was upstairs watching the game, so I didn't hear, I'm not there to hear what Donovan Mitchell said. But whatever he said crossed the line. Zach, let's go back a couple years ago. Russell Westbrook's MVP, or the season where Russell Westbrook had a league high, almost 14, 15 technicals. And he tosses the ball. It's a timeout. He tosses the ball at the referee, and the ref gets hit in the head. And the ref is immediately calls a technical foul. Zach, these refs are soft nowadays. Let's be honest. The game is soft all around. Zach, I've been saying that for months now. And arguably, I'll go off the record and say I've been saying it before the show. I've been saying it for years that the game is soft. But these refs are softer. And there's a difference between the game being soft and the refs being soft. These refs are soft out. There's some things, as Montrezl Harrell said it best, I said some way worse things on the basketball court than what I said yesterday. And I got technical for that. But I got away with some other things. First of all, Montrezl, I don't know what you've been saying, but I don't want to know what you've been saying. But Zach, the NBA has an officiating problem with, one, how quick to call technical fouls on some things, and two, how officiating is in general. Zach, I've been pushing for the game to go back to being a little bit rougher and tougher. But the problem is the game is so soft that when guys don't get the common contact foul, the softest foul, they get upset and the anger overcomes them. But Zach, another point I want to bring out: if you're the NBA and fans aren't there, but what's the best thing that the NBA always does well, which is views. Zach, you got ABC on Saturday night, ABC Sunday at 3:30. You got ESPN running 3 games a week. You got 2 games or 4 games on TNT Thursday and Friday, and then you got NBA TV. You're bringing in revenue by people viewing on those platforms, by watching on there. But they don't want to see your favorite player or their favorite player or the star get ejected over something little. Zach, you know how I felt about LeBron James. I thought he should have been ejected in Philadelphia when he pulled that stuff versus Joel Embiid. But that's the sad part about today's game is you can't say anything. I don't know why LeBron James gets away with it, but some refs are quick to throw the technical out there. I don't know why.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, obviously, if you're a superstar in this league, you get a little bit more leeway than some of these younger, never heard of. Sorry to be real with that, but LeBron James gets away with way too much. It's not fun to watch sometimes. You don't really notice it during the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter. But when it's the fourth quarter and you're up by maybe 3 or you're down by 3 and every possession is pivotal and these ticky-tacky, I hate to say it, BS fouls are called. They were called earlier in the game, but sometimes the expression, Gavin, you ever hear swallow the whistle? There are times, and we say it in football all the time, where you need to swallow the whistle. And we've been taught that if a player forces someone to jump, that they can jump into them as if they're shooting. we are at this point expected to hear a whistle in that point. I have a compromise for that because it is inadvertent contact.
The rest of
It's not really a shooting foul. You should not get 3 at the line if you do that. Honestly, personally, I think it should be an offensive foul. If you go into somebody, if like Seth Curry's in the air like this, and I think what was it Donovan Mitchell or was it Mike Conley who went into him?
They both did it last night. So to be exact,
One of them specifically in the corner, I think it was Mitchell. If you do that really should be a charge. If someone's in the air and they can't control their actions, it honestly should be an offensive foul. In the beginning of the show, I was willing to concede and say it should be an inbounding foul and not a foul, a shooting foul. It should be a foul on the floor. If someone's in the air and they're considered what you would call a defenseless defender and they don't lean into you anymore and you lean into them, why should that not preserve the same rights of a charge when your feet are set? Because if your feet are set, you're not moving into somebody. They're forcing their contact into you. If you jump in the air and you can't physically get out of their way, you'll become defenseless. I think that rule needs to be changed and reviewed. The problem, though, lies in the subjectivity of the officials and not always in this case, I think the rule. But then again, with charges, you go back and you watch a replay. Were their feet really set? It becomes very subjective. And that is where the problem is in the modern NBA. And that's why the expression swallow the whistle exists, because sometimes they need to do that. And when it matters, when it's a 3, 4, 5 at most point game, everyone is paying attention with a microscope. And it makes the game less fun for us as fans. It makes it less fun. It makes it less enjoyable. The fact that James Harden and I love Joel Embiid, but the fact that he can just go up whenever, and if you physically make a stop on a play and you get mostly ball and you slightly touch their arm, the whistle should be silent. Nowadays, we know it's not going to be, and it really gets amplified in those last 2-3 minutes. Just watch early in games. Try to pay attention. If those happened late, they'd be all over the news. Like blown pass interference calls happen all the time. But this specific one, of course, it was blatant. It happened in the NFC Championship game on a drive where the Saints were going down the field. It was amplified, and then the rule changed, and then they regretted it. At the end of the day, it comes to the subjectivity of the officials, and they need to be retrained to an aspect because some things need to be modified. And I think that unfortunately the game's gotten way too soft. It's way too easy to get the charity stripe. You can only do it so many times, and offensive fouls aren't called enough, in my opinion, because offensive players are at fault as well. But continue, Gavin.
Zach, this comment says here, it's terrible when someone does that and they have a clean shot and do it. That's the truth, Zach. You and I both play basketball, and Zach, I know you've been working on your jump shot. Same here. Do you jump sideways?
I have to say,
but Zach, do you jump sideways? Like, do you jump like this? No,
unnatural position.
That's unnatural movement. Now, Zach, you're right. When you're in the air, you're defenseless. You can't rotate, and if you do, you're causing injury. Zach, you're jumping into somebody. Zach, you said it should have been you offense keeps the ball. Zach, I did, and then you said that it should be a charge. Zach, I agree with you. It's an offensive foul. It's a charge. Wherever you want to write it, the offense should not be able to keep the ball. You're jumping into somebody, and you don't know how many times I've seen that. This just here, and Zach, James Harden. I love the guy. I love watching James Harden play. But this whole jumping into people and stuff, I've been saying that stuff for years now. For the past 3 years, it's a problem in the NBA. James Harden does it. Joel Embiid, I love the guy. But this, and then doing this, that's and getting a foul call. What is that? LeBron.
And if he doesn't get the foul call, you hear him complain. That's the culture that's been unfortunately developed in the modern day NBA. I know that I don't want to support your case on the GOAT debate any bit.
Please do.
But I mean, in this case, I'll concede. We had a good talk today on our weekly meeting with some of our friends about discussing sports. But the modern NBA is soft, and it's not what it used to be. Shooting has evolved and really made it a little bit different because it's not necessary to get in the paint to score anymore. So that's one aspect of it for sure. On the other side, of course, the Jordan rules would not fly today, and I think that they shouldn't have existed back then. But there has to be a balance. Early 2000s, I think we've talked about this before. Early 2000s, from like 2001 to 2008, 9. That was the perfect time where there was perfect balance.
2010 was perfect balance too, Zach. But real quick, it's like the slide rule when the quarterback is sliding. All right. When if it's a late slide and the dude already launched, and Zach, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but once someone launches, it's over. There's nothing you can do about it. That's why sometimes in some cases you'll see the offensive opponent get upset because the quarterback was hit. But remember, there was a late slide and I already launched. Zach, if you're running and I launched and you didn't slide yet, I already launched. There's nothing I can do about it. And I'm gonna risk injury on myself. This is just a terrible situation. It's ruining the game of basketball. And Zach, I gotta give credit to the NFL on the launch rule because Zach, if they didn't do that, that was also ruining the game of football. As much as you don't like seeing quarterbacks get hurt, but you gotta make it fair for the defenders too. Zach, it's the same thing in basketball. You gotta make it fair for the defenders too. That's why guys like Kawhi Leonard, Rudy Gobert, Ben Simmons, Giannis Antetokounmpo, they get mad respect. Klay Thompson, because it's hard to play defense in the modern NBA. But like I said, and not to get the GOAT debate started, but if Michael Jordan was playing in this day and age, this soft day and age, you don't think he would get 50 every game? I mean, come on. I mean, it's all. And another thing they had to check too is the offense. People driving into the lane of offense, because there's been a lot of times where I've seen the offensive player put their shoulder into somebody and push off, and they get a foul drawn by the defense. So we got to revisit the rules, NBA. Adam Silver, come on now.
Scale back. I mean, you have the access to technology nowadays. Let them play, as the expression goes. But Gavin, we've spoken about that. We discussed some of the different flaws, specifically tying to the game last night. But let's talk about it now as Sixers fans. What a phenomenal way to end the 76ers game. What a great way to end going into the All-Star break. The 76ers going into last night had a half-game lead on the Brooklyn Nets. They were trailing by 10+. The Nets were in the lead in their game against Houston. It looked inevitable that the Sixers would be the 2 seed going into the break. Now, things changed. The Sixers were able to come back. Their defense was able to tighten up, but more importantly, their three-pointers started to fall. End of the game, you're down by 3. Game's pretty much over. Joel Embiid, monstrous step-back, pump-fake release for 3. Going to overtime, Tobias Harris activated his inner Mamba, and the Sixers were able to pull it off. Arguably no problem. Tobias Harris himself outscored the Utah Jazz 11-6 in the overtime session. And, of course, the drama, but at the same time, the Sixers earned that win. It was a hard fight. Joel Embiid, 5 games this season with 40 points and 10+ boards. The rest of the NBA has 4. I think, Gavin, you know where I'm going with that. We're getting to our midseason awards in just a minute. But before we do, let's recap last night's game. Philadelphia 76ers, the 1 seed in the East, beating the Utah Jazz, the 1 seed in the West.
Zach, last night was the definition of when it rains, it pours. The Jazz were unconscious from 3 again. 21 out of 44, or excuse me, 25 out of 44. They basically, the amount of shots the Sixers attempted, they made from behind the arc. That's nuts. But Zach, here's the thing. Rudy Gobert, the Defensive Player of the Year, not last year. Giannis was Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, first to do that in a while. But Rudy Gobert is a Defensive Player of the Year. He didn't look like it last night. Zach, Joel Embiid had his way all night long. Rudy Gobert only had 9 rebounds. Joel had 19. Rudy Gobert only had 12 points. Joel had 40. Anything Joel Embiid wanted, he got. Now, why does that matter? Why is it a big ordeal? Zach, here's why. The last time the Sixers and Jazz played, they lost because the Jazz was able to hit their threes and there was no Joel Embiid, and Rudy Gobert was kind of getting his way down low. Zach, last night's game showed me that Joel Embiid is the best big man in the game. Big man in the game. And Zach, if you're doing big man or the center, you can say center, best center in the game, and Anthony Davis best power forward. I still consider Anthony Davis a power forward regardless. But Zach, Joel Embiid got his way last night. I mean, 40 points on Rudy Gobert. And the reason why the Sixers pulled this game out was they just got anything they wanted to paint, whether it was Tobias Harris, whether it was Joel Embiid, whether it was Ben Simmons. The paint was open for business, Zach. It was a small business owner down there, and it was open for the first time in a while. We got to keep those open, by the way. But, Zach, I mean, look at it. They had 64 points in the paint to their 44. And, yes, the Sixers shot 8 threes out of 25 and didn't hit all of them. But when the paint's open for business, this team is unstoppable.
This Sixers team, it's the story of the season. You have Daryl Morey's went out and gotten some good shooters. They got to be able to do their job every night. The bench needs to do their part. How about Dwight Howard? another unsung hero from last night. He went on a little run for a little bit, couple of blocks here and there, as well as a couple of posterizers, as I call it. He's got some flashes of his old self when you use him correctly in the game. We talked about this before as well. How important is it for the bench to be productive? Well, in the playoffs, you go 2-3 guys deep, second round on. If the Sixers maintain the 1 seed, there's a chance they don't have to worry about going only 2 or 3 guys deep until the conference final. I like the Sixers' top 8 players versus anybody in the league. I really do. The Clippers, they scare me a little bit, but we know how they've been. They need to prove otherwise until I start trusting them again. The Lakers are the defending champions when they're fully healthy. But again, the key for the Lakers is not only for their 2 superstars to do their part. You need a third guy to do their thing, whether it's Kuzma, Caruso some nights, Kentavious Caldwell, Pope. And then you have a team like the Utah Jazz. They're pretty scary. The Nets, top 8 players, it's going to get testy. The Sixers are not the most talented team in the league. They're probably top 5. If I have to go talent alone in your top 8 players, I am going Utah at number 1. I'm going Clippers at number 2. I'm going Nets at number 3. I'm going Lakers at number 4. And I'll put Philadelphia at 5.
Would you put the Suns in there?
Suns are the next team at 6 because I like their bench as well. I don't love Brooklyn's bench. I love the Clippers bench. I don't love the Lakers. The Lakers, for some reason, there's some factor that makes them dominant later in the season, in the playoffs. I mean, it was a bubble, so it's hard to grade that really, but they're not the most talented team. It goes to the Jazz are. The Jazz are the deepest, most talented team. As far as the 8 players in the league, 8 players per team, there are 4 teams I'll take over Philadelphia. If you go out and you get yourself another role player or game changer and you trade away someone not in the top 8, then it changes. But the bottom line is I'm not throwing a parade down Broad Street yet, but there's a lot of things I like about this Sixers team.
Zach, they're not the most talented team in the East. We know where the real talent is. Where's Brooklyn at? The bad boys of Brooklyn, Zach, as I like to call them. But this team is the best team that plays together. I mean, Zach, they can hit on all cylinders. At one point, this starting lineup was undefeated, and the starting lineup really didn't get defeated until Steph Curry came back and was struggling. But before the COVID outbreak or the mini COVID outbreak, whatever you want to call it for the Sixers starting 5 was undefeated. Zach, one of the best. Steph Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. That can work. You know why it can work? Because everybody knows their job and play your role. That's one thing Doc Rivers preaches, play your role. They're going to give it to Joel Embiid 100,000 times in the post. They want him to be dominant, Zach. We've seen it this year. You're going to get Ben Simmons to be facilitating. That's his best. Facilitate and play defense and open floor. And then here and there, hit a 3. By the way, he drained a 3 the other night. And no one's talking about it. It was back page news. Tobias Harris is here. His best year was under Doc Rivers. And that was the year he got traded here. Tobias Harris is back. Not finding Danny Green and Steph Curry is going to be Steph Curry when in the playoffs. That's all that matters to me. The talent might not be here, but if you got a system that everybody can buy into and play their role, then who cares about what talent? Zach, not the most talented team. The Clippers, the Nuggets last year wasn't the most talented team, right? They weren't, but they had Jamal Murray, they had Nikola Jokic, and they had Michael Porter Jr., and they had a nice system and a nice group of guys around them to buy in. Let's go back to Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers, where they got swept by the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. How did they get there? Yes, they went to a couple Game 7s, but remember, they had a nice system at the time. They had some players that was able to work and buy in. Let's go to Boston the year without Kyrie, where they should have won in 7 games versus your Cavs, Zach. They all bought into a system. They all believed in what they had, and they would do it. Zach, this Sixers team, they had the opportunity to party down Broad Street. Will I start planning the parade right now in March? No, I wouldn't, because there's still some other teams that might go there before them. But Zach, would I think about partying down Broad Street? Of course. This team has a chance to do it. They need one more piece. Zach, I think Daryl Morey might make one more piece at the trade deadline. But after that, we'll see it from there. And it wouldn't be a party, Zach. It would be a Zoom party, most likely.
Yeah, it depends. Down in August, I think, is when the NBA Finals is this year, possibly something smaller. But yeah, you're right. Chemistry is going to be important for this team. I'm not going to call them the most talented. If you put Jimmy Butler on this team, you replace, I guess, Danny Green with Jimmy Butler. There's no question this is the best team in the Eastern Conference. Unfortunately, we know how that panned out. Fortunately for the Sixers, though, we got Seth Curry out of it. Josh Richardson, of course, from Miami, and then we traded him for Seth Curry from Dallas, who's been actually surging as of late. But that wraps up the 76ers' first half of the season. The 1 seed in the East. Fans are back after the break. Perhaps this can be a good momentum for them. Joel Embiid, is he the top MVP candidate? I know he's Gavin's, but who's mine? Who's our Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, and more? Coming up after this are mid-season awards for the National Basketball
everybody is not surprised.
Association. Stay tuned.
We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this.
Welcome back here on the More Than Philly Sports Network. A little bit of a technical difficulty there trying to get our ad to plug, but hey, what's the fun of this if there's no technical difficulties that stress you out? But in all seriousness,
in a while, this is what we get.
Oh, for sure. This has been quite the fun time, though, for sure. In all seriousness, it is halfway through the season. So it is time, of course, for midseason awards. Gavin and I have sat down, put together a small list of our top players for these awards: most valuable player, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year, most improved player, sixth man of the year, and, of course, coach of the year. Gavin, I'll let you kick it off with the MVP of the league. Take it away.
Zach, you already know where I'm going. I'm going with the big fella in Philadelphia. Zach, Joel Embiid is playing out of his mind. Zach, you said it best. He has more 40-point games, 40 points and 10-plus rebounds games than anyone else in the entire league. Zach, he's averaging 30 points, and he's being dominant. Zach, this is something that we dreamed of Joel Embiid doing ever since we drafted him. We didn't think he was going to unlock this potential because, Zach, at one point, he fell in love with shooting the 3 balls, and it wasn't working. Now he's going back down and being a post player, a 7'1" beast in the paint. Zach, there's nobody else that deserves the MVP but him. Give it to him right now. Zach, if the league were to end today for some odd reason, and we had to crown MVP trophy, if it's not in Philadelphia, it's highway robbery.
You have a guy who was second in the league in scoring behind Bradley Beal. All defensive first team, most likely this year. His team is first in the Eastern Conference. And he just knocked down a clutch three-pointer to help his team win. But Nikola Jokic passes better. I don't get that. Joel Embiid is the MVP of the league. He scores more than Jokic, and Jokic is most people's number 2. Some people's number 1. But he scores less than Embiid. He's not as good at defense as Embiid. Might be a little bit better of a passer, but it's whatever. I don't see how Joel Embiid isn't the MVP. I don't think he's – after last night, honestly, most people in the sports world today are debating who the MVP of the league at the moment is. No, it's not LeBron James. I know, Gavin, that's probably intriguing for you to hear. But Damian Lillard, honestly, right now, my MVP rankings goes Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard, and then I'll put LeBron at 4 and Steph at 5. I think that's reasonable. If Kevin Durant had these numbers and played almost every night, again, it's not necessarily his fault. He's had a couple of different injuries and COVID contact tracing. He'd be up there as well. But I think we agree when it comes to who the MVP should be. It will be the first center to win it in a very long time as well. So that's who the Sixers wanted out of Kansas, 3rd overall, 2014.
Zach, if I had to go down my power rankings, it would be Joel Embiid 1. I'm going to go Dame Dollar at 2. Nikola Jokic at 3. Steph Curry at 4, and now put LeBron James at 5. Zach, and I'm not really hating on LeBron James. That 4.
I was shocked you put him on your list at all.
Well, I mean, with Zach, I couldn't do Kevin
Is
Durant
James Harden?
because
I mean, where's James Harden at? Do you have him up
well,
there?
see, that's the funny thing because James Harden, I could sub him in at 5'2".
James Harden is putting up MVP numbers right now.
He's a walking triple double ever since he's been in Brooklyn. Zach, I could argue sub him in before Jokic, and I could honestly take out Jokic because James Harden is doing more better things than Nikola Jokic. Zach, the reason why I would put James Harden above Nikola Jokic is this reason right here. Nikola Jokic is not doing much of winning. And James Harden, yes, I know with the big three, but they haven't really played that many games together. Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving have not played as many games together as everybody thinks. It's either Kevin Durant and James Harden, and it's James Harden and Kyrie. And Zach, when they needed James Harden the most in the Sun versus the Suns, he showed up. He delivered. Zach, I'm going to switch it. I'll put James Harden in there, and I'll take Nikola Jokic out. Or if you want to leave Jokic in there, I'll side LeBron James out. LeBron's not really that effective this past year.
Debatable to an extent, but of course, 4-game losing streak when Anthony Davis went out. They also lost the other night without LeBron James in there either. But no, MVP. Joel Embiid's up there. James Harden can climb, but when you had the drama and then you weren't traded till mid-January, it's kind of tough to have that kind of a start. But he looks like he's lost some weight. Looks like pretty bouncy out there, pretty talented player playing the best he's ever been. And again, that takes the pressure off of Kyrie. Of course, it will take pressure off Kevin Durant when he's also out there. The next award on our list, and I have a feeling that we're both going to do the same one again, Defensive Player of the Year. I'll start it off. I think Ben Simmons, hands down, has it right now. Don't get me wrong. Rudy Gobert is an insane defender and an insane rim protector. They don't look like it last night, but everybody's got bad nights. But that's all he does. He protects in the paint, which is not an easy task at all. However, there's a guy who can do that on top of guard 1 through 5, on top of restrict field goal percentages for the other team. And this week on the ladder has actually become number 1 on the Defensive Player of the Year. It sounds heavily biased being a Philly sports talk show, or more than Philly sports talk show is our actual name. Our literal name is. But yes, I do have a 76er at both of these first 2 spots. And I promise there are no other Sixers on my list. But Gavin, who is your Defensive Player of the Year?
Zach, I guess we must have worked together on this one. It's Ben Simmons. Look, let's go back to the Luka Doncic game in Philadelphia. Zach, Luka Doncic had 19 points, but 7 turnovers. Ben Simmons had him in a straitjacket. Now, everybody's going to say, well, Ben Simmons, and how come Philadelphia still gives up a lot of points? Because Doc Rivers doesn't put Ben Simmons on the obvious person until later in the game. But when he's on him, he's on him. Zach, Donovan Mitchell was in a straitjacket before he got ejected, and in the final
He's
couple
frustrated,
moments,
obviously. I mean, Ben didn't do much offensively late in the game. He kind of disappeared in the overtime, but defensively he was there.
But frustrated, exactly. And that was a misperception of Ben Simmons earlier in the year, was him not scoring, but his account, but no one was looking at his defense. Zach, he's been there when you need him the most in defense. That's my Defensive Player of the Year. If I had to go with somebody else, I couldn't give it to Rudy Gobert just seen last night. I had to give it to Giannis, though, Zach. Giannis is on another level defensively.
Defending Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Probably never going to say that name perfectly, but I apologize. There's a compilation I saw once on YouTube of announcers trying to say his name before he was really a relevant player in the league. But in all seriousness, yes, Ben Simmons, number 1 on my list. Rudy Gobert is number 2 on my list. Miles Turner, I'd put at 3, actually. I think he's had a really good year. Then number 4, I put Giannis. If Anthony Davis was healthy, he'd be up there, but it's hard to do that when you haven't played in a little bit. But I think he'll rise during the season when he is able to come back and play healthy. But again, right now, Ben Simmons up there.
If he comes back to play healthy, remember, Zach, that Achilles for that, how tall he is, that's nothing to play around with.
No, it's not. Kevin Durant, unfortunately, had to learn that one of the unfortunate ways in the NBA Finals a couple of years ago, but he's bounced back and looked pretty good. Once he's healthy again, he'll be able to get out there and play. But next on our list, Rookie of the Year. There's not many rookies making a splash. Anthony Edwards had a nice poster the other night. Was 0 for 9 from beyond the arc as well. Minnesota's kind of been a dumpster fire this year, unfortunately. Hate to see it, but right now I'm not sure how anyone can outshine LaMelo Ball. He's become a starter. He has consistently dropped 20-plus a game. He's getting his assists. He's getting rebounds. He is the player we were promised that Lonzo would be, the way LeVar hyped him up. But right now I can't see anyone else besides LaMelo Ball being the the Rookie of the Year?
Zach, you have one son that you hyped up. The hometown team drafted you, and you didn't do anything.
Gets
The other
traded.
son, and they get traded. The other son was playing Swiper No Swiping for all my Dora fans from back in the day. Swiper No Swiping. He was playing Swiper No Swiping in another country and tried to steal some sunglasses, and hasn't been in the league and can't get in the league and never really got a fair chance. And then you have the last one, the last son. I was really critical of this LaMelo Ball. Zach, I call him a bust because you saw the first two pan out. History repeats itself. But I was completely wrong. Melo Ball is my Rookie of the Year, unless Anthony Edwards turns it up. Because Zach, I'm a big Anthony Edwards fan. The disrespectful stuff he's doing on their posters has been outrageous. But Zach, LaMelo Ball, ever since he's been in the starting line, he's averaging 15 plus points on 44.9% from the field. And a nice respect with 6 rebounds and 6 assists a game, and a couple of 30 bomb in there in the last couple of shots as well. LaMelo Ball is Rookie of the Year right now. Anthony Edwards and James Wiseman have to step up.
James Wiseman's a name I'll keep an eye on the back half of the year. Has unfortunately let down a little bit on some of his hopes, but limited experience in college, no preseason or anything. Looked pretty good early on. Warriors have kind of been hot and cold. We'll see how it goes. A lot of time left for this to change, but at this moment, it's hard to see anyone else getting that award other than LaMelo Ball. Of course, we can insert the Ben Simmons jokes, but as Sixers fans, we're tired of hearing it. Getting on to our next award, Most Improved Player, Gavin. I'm honestly lost on which one I want to say because, of course, I know that you have one. I'm not going to spoil it for the viewers because it will shock some of you considering Gavin's hate on the specific team. But I have a couple that come to mind, and it's tough to say them because they haven't necessarily been winning. Chris Boucher, I know, is going to be a name that really shocks people defensively. He's been great this year. I'm just pulling up his stats. Went from 6 points a game to 13, 1 block to 2 blocks a game, and his 3-point percentage 32 to 42%. That's just a name to keep an eye on. My personal favorite is Christian Wood. He has doubled his points, almost doubled his rebounds, and doubled his 3-point makes the game. Unfortunately, the Rockets are not playing at an elite level where they're winning games, so he's under the radar. But my pick right now is Christian Wood. Colin Sexton, I do like him as well, but both these teams are sitting in the basements of their conference. If either of them were in just barely in the playoffs, Colin Sexton and Christian Wood would be on the front cover of Most Improved Player of the Year.
Zach, I like Seawood early in the year too, but he went down with an injury and hasn't really played since. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a major apology coming from me in about 2 seconds. My most improved player is Julius Randle of the New York Knicks. You can't make this up.
Knicks.
Exactly, but you can't make this up. Did you expect Julius Randle to be balling out this year? Zach, let me pull the stats up real quick. Last year, he was averaging 19.5 points per game on 46% shooting, 9.7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. This year, 23.1 points per game, 48% from the field, and 10.9 rebounds per game. And Zach, he's an all-star. And to make me look like a psychomaniac even more, the Knicks are 4th in the East. Yeah, you can't make this up. Like I never seen this before in my life. The worst owner ever has an all-star. I can't make this up, New York Knicks fans. I'm so sorry. I look now. You guys probably will fall off and do New York Knicks things, which I expect you guys to do, is just fall out the playoffs. But Zach, Tom Thibodeau and Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett and Derrick Rose and the crew, they got something brewing in Madison Square Garden. All right,
They really do. Honestly,
Spike Lee and Stephen A. Smith and I guess Max Kellerman is going back to being a New York Knicks fan. There's something brewing in the Garden. But guess what, Zach? James Dolan is still the owner. He's still not a great owner. I would never like James Dolan. But New York Knicks fans, I apologize. Julius Randle's the real deal.
We've gotten to a point in our show where Gavin has made a take and has been able to retract it because things have actually changed.
That's how you get the phone.
Just like that. But in all seriousness, New York Knicks, 4th in the East. I like the New York Knicks. I really do. I think they're building some good things there. They can bring in a veteran in the offseason to help them guide the way. They could become a serious playoff team in the coming years if they can hit on the draft as well. it's going to be nice to see the Knicks most likely not in the lottery this year unless they fall out of the playoffs.
It's like actually, I think I deserve a gift. A gift from the New York Knicks, Stephen A. Smith, and Spike Lee. Because I hated on the Knicks the whole summer. I hated on the Knicks. Every chance I got, I hated on the Knicks because I don't like James Dolan, the worst owner ever. And they did my man Carmelo Anthony dirty. And Chris Porzingis just wanted to speak with James Dolan, and you shipped him out. Hasn't been good ever since. So maybe that was a good thing. But Zach, they're fifth in the East. Zach, I mean, I didn't like Robert Covington. We got him out of Philadelphia. I didn't like Abdul Harry. He did himself wrong. Zach,
he's on his way back, but we'll talk about that.
I know we're gonna get that before we go, but Zach, I deserve a gift. New York Knicks. I deserve some tickets or something. I deserve tickets to go. I don't know why I want to go, but I deserve something.
Square Garden, Gavin's obsession with New York, downtown Manhattan, not too far from Broadway. New York Knicks and Philadelphia 76ers, I don't know when they're playing, but if they have fans, maybe we'll get up. We have to go to UConn anyway, so we're going to have to circle back and maybe we'll do a road trip.
We do have to go to UConn. I'm on my way.
All right, man. Next award on our list is Sixth Man of the Year. This is an interesting one. Right now, there's a couple of guys, nothing too notable defending Sixth Man of the Year. Montrezl Harrell has not been putting up Sixth Man of the Year numbers. Lou Williams has been in and out of their lineup again with COVID and all. It's definitely tough to gauge a lot right now, honestly, at some of these guys. But one guy that has stood out to me, another guy who was a former Los Angeles Laker, part of that team way back when, is Jordan Clarkson. He's been averaging 18, 19 points a game. And off the bench, that's pretty impressive. Shake Milton has done his part, averaging 13, 14 a game. But again, I promise to remove my Sixers bias for the time being. I do think that Jordan Clarkson is presently better. If Clarkson was a starter, he'd be in my conversation for most improved player, but at the very least, definitely my Sixth Man of the Year at the moment.
Zach, we're the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. I was about to give it to Shake Milton because he's looked better ever since game one. And even though he had the little ankle problem for a little bit that kept him out for a little bit, Zach, he dropped 26 points the other night. I'm going to give it to Jordan Clarkson because he's been unconscious from three as of late. But Lou Williams, the sixth man award that is named after him, Drake put him in his song, in and out the lineup, probably going to Magic City or wherever he's doing. And Montrezl Harrell's not putting up effective numbers. I have to roll. I think I have to roll with Jordan Clarkson or Shake Milton in this one. I'm torn between the two. Those are the only two that I actually like right now. And maybe
I do have up here
because I know for everyone who's a starter.
I do have up here the awards Sixth Man of the Year to watch candidates. Shake Milton, 88.6% free throw percentage, averaging 14 points per game. Eric Gordon, another name, 18 points a game, 36% from three. It's just hard to gauge when your team's not good. He might be on the trade block. Keep an eye on him, Sixers fans. But again, when your team's not relevant, it's kind of tough because the top two candidates, Shake Milton, first place Sixers, Jordan Clarkson, 18 points a game, 38% from three, 39% almost from three. Utah Jazz, first place. You got to win. That's the first thing you got to do before you get noticed. So that's why I go Jordan Clarkson right now. Gavin, you're split between Jordan Clarkson and Shake Milton, but it seems like we both seem to be right now with Jordan Clarkson. If Milton bumps up those points, he averages 18, 19 a game, then he'll be back in that. But definitely going to be we have three Sixers right now that are going to be at least in the top three of their respective categories come the awards in, I guess, August this year.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to find out, but it seems like we're on the same page. I feel like Coach of the Year is going to be something we see differently about.
Yeah, and that brings us to the last conversation, Coach of the Year, which I think will also include a Sixer in the top three. I definitely think Doc Rivers will be in the conversation. I personally don't think he is Coach of the Year at the moment. But Gavin, I'll let you take it away. You go first with your current Coach of the Year candidate.
Zach, my Coach of the Year is not the first team in the West, and it's not the first team in the East. It's the second team in the West. The Phoenix Suns, Zach, last year they were 10th in the West. And we know about the 8-0 bubble run, but Zach, before the bubble, they weren't really much. I think they were 11th in the West, 11th or 12th in the West, really on the outside looking in. And Phoenix goes 8-0 in the bubble. You miss out the play-in by one game, literally one game, and we were upset about it. You come back, you get Chris Paul in the offseason. Chris Paul elevates your players around. That's another guy that does it. You got DeAndre Ayton playing at a higher level, not also level, but a higher level. Devin Booker, who got all-star snub. I'm glad he's there, but shoot, he deserves it himself. And then Monty Williams, the head man of it all. Now, I could go Quinn Snyder because of how hot his Jazz team was. But Zach, the Jazz were in the playoffs last year. They're 5 spots differently than they were last year. This is 8. Monty Williams totally changed. Chris Paul changed, and Monty Williams changed, and they got a system out there believing. And Devin Booker's running the show down there. It's believable. It's unbelievable. And if Monty Williams doesn't get Coach of the Year, I won't be terribly upset. Zach, Doc Rivers is in it, but I think it might go to Steve Nash too, managing 3 egos. Zach, we talk about it, and it's going to be the little things if Steve Nash wins. It's managing the egos and keeping 3 of the best scorers in the game selfish or unselfish and keep the ball moving. But Monty Williams right now is my Coach of the Year from 10-2.
I mean, without a doubt, the addition of Chris Paul surely helped believing in the culture. Jay Crowder as well getting there. I'm a big fan of Monty Williams. I think he's done a really good job in Phoenix so far. I do have 3 other guys that really come to mind when it comes to Coach of the Year. Number 1 is Quinn Snyder. That's my current top choice. I think that he has really helped this team blend together. And Gavin, remember, we were talking about one of their stars being traded because they had a personal issue following their COVID outbreak. That seems to be patched up. Looks like it is to me. I think that's a lot of credit to the head coach being able to keep those guys together, keep them united. Mike Conley's really having a bounce back year, looking like he's his max days in Memphis. So that's my number 1 choice. But 2 other guys that come to mind: Doc Rivers, big fan of what he's done for this team. Again, I don't want to be biased necessarily, but my sleeper pick, and I've been very high on this head coach for a very long time. It's Nick Nurse, because every year the Raptors get depleted of talent. Kawhi was there. They won a ring, all that fun stuff. Kawhi leaves. They barely missed a beat last year. They lost in Game 7 of Round 2 against Boston, who went on to the Eastern Conference Final. This year they had a tough start, but even without Kyle Lowry in the lineup for a lot of games, they're the 8 seed right now, and I anticipate they'll be a top 5, top 6 seed when it's all said and done. If they get to the top 5, he's my Coach of the Year. Otherwise, it goes to Quinn Snyder. And yes, Steve Nash has a lot of talent around him, but it takes a lot to manage that team. He won't win it, I don't think, but I think he deserves a nod for what he's done there. He's gotten a lot of scrutiny being hired as a first-time head coach with no prior experience except for being a player, of course. But I don't know. That's definitely a tough one. But right now, Quinn Snyder, his team is having a lot of success. It's not about most improved coach. It's about the best coach. So while you make a good point going from 10-2 for the Phoenix Suns, the addition of Chris Paul also helped. But I think for a team that didn't do much in the offseason except for retain their players to be as good as they are right now, that says a lot about coaching. So I'm going with Quinn Snyder with the Utah Jazz.
Zach, here I go again. I really do deserve an award. If the New York Knicks can stay in the top 5 or top 4, I think Tom Thibodeau deserves a chance at Coach of the Year. Talk about a guy that was literally working with a whole bunch of scrambled pieces and has them playing well defensively and offensively. Tom Thibodeau has the New York Knicks, all teams, Zach, the New York Knicks at 5. At 5. That's another Coach of the Year candidate. Zach, I can't take nothing away from Doc Rivers or Quinn Snyder, but I like Monty Williams. I like the major jump they did. They made 2 moves in the offseason. Jay Crowder really stresses the defensive side of the ball while Chris Paul is uplifting everybody. And then you got Devin Booker running the show. Monty Williams is a fantastic coach. And I like Quinn Snyder and having his 2 stars believe that they can still coexist. But I just got to give it to the team that went from 8-2. The Jazz really didn't jump that much, but they just started hitting more shots, more threes, and they jumped 4 to 5 spots. This team jumped 8. And the New York Knicks, if they stay, they jumped a whole bunch.
The Knicks came out of nowhere, I'll be honest with you.
Make me look like
they really have. They came out of nowhere. They lost out on the lottery last year, lost out on both Zion Williamson and Ja Morant.
and Anthony Davis.
For RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett's having a fine year. Definitely still needs to test some development that he can go through. But I like the New York Knicks. Funny enough, I'd love to see the Knicks and the Nets play in a playoff series against each other. That'd be a fun one to watch if you're a New Yorker, of course. going back and forth between Manhattan and Brooklyn, you'd probably go home every night unless you're stuck in traffic. The city that never sleeps. They also have those jerseys, Gavin. Maybe that's what we'll get you as a gift. If the New York Knicks make it to the Eastern Conference semifinal, I'll buy you that T-shirt with the symbol on it that says "the city that never sleeps." I do promise you that, and you'll have to wear it. I'll give you an RJ Barrett one because you are a big Duke fan. But in all seriousness, Gavin, anything else you wanted to say on the basketball side before we do briefly go over and talk about the Philadelphia Phillies before we wrap up today?
Way to make me look crazy, New York. Way to make me look crazy. I spent a whole summer complaining about your owner, and you guys come out and you're fifth in the East. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Thanks.
Yeah, you would probably never believe that they have a better record than Miami, Charlotte, Toronto, Indiana, Chicago, and even Atlanta, who's got their own drama of their own at 16 and 20. We'll have to cover that a separate time. But Gavin, finally today, Philadelphia Phillies, records don't really matter right now. They're just trying to get some guys out there, get a feel for them. Aaron Nola looked so-so in his first start, was better as the game went on. Offensively, Rhys Hoskins made his debut today. Nothing notable. Had one nice base hit. Scott Kingery had a home run. He looks like he could hopefully be a good piece this year. They're paying him a lot of money, so he better be able to. And then, of course, Alec Boehm had an absolute bomb today. But the player that we're focusing on, this is a huge shocker. Abdul Herrera was invited back to camp, has played. I have not read anything specifically on his play. Rhys Hoskins informed the media today that he did issue an apology to the team. This is just an interesting one because he's been a key piece of this team during the growth stages through the Gabe Kapler years. Gavin, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Get him away from this winning team. And Zach, they're not even winning. What does Abdul Herrera bring to this team? Oh, a bunch of distractions. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and read the report that happened last year. It was disgusting, Zach. Or excuse me, 2 years ago. It was disgusting. I don't want him nowhere near this team. Zach, all he does is strike out and hit a home run here or there. Nothing good comes from Abdul Herrera. Nothing. But okay, let me be fair. Let me be fair. You would get a decent center fielder back. All right, he can track down a baseball, and he's actually pretty decent at finding. But his offense, it's all right. It's mediocre at some points. But running the base, you get some speed. But Zach, there's nothing to like about Abdul Herrera coming back to this team. There's not anything to like. And arguably, Zach, if you want a center fielder so bad, you should have got Jackie Bradley Jr., who just went to the Brewers for a 2-year deal today. If you really need a center fielder, but if you think Abdul Herrera is going to be the answer, no.
I do honestly I think he will be a part of this team come the spring. I don't think he'll be the starter. I think that Roman Quinn is the starter. My current starting lineup goes in no particular order, but except for the defensive side, catcher JT Realmuto, first base Rhys Hoskins. Second base is going to be a competition between Gene Segura as well as Scott Kingery. Shortstop, Didi Gregorius. Third base, Alec Boehm. Right field, Bryce Harper. Left field, Andrew McCutchen. And center field, Roman Quinn. I don't really see how that team misses the playoffs this year. I don't. But let them find new ways to disappoint us because that's all that matters.
See, Zach, I told you. See, I told you last week, and this is in our sports meeting. I told you last week, I said I would not buy into the Phillies hype because every time I do, they let me down hard. And someone had the nerve to ask, are you really a Phillies fan? I am. The depression. Zach, we know we know what this means. All right, we know the symbol. All right, it's coming back a little bit more. But here's the thing. I'm a realistic Phillies fan. I'm not gonna get my hopes, skyrocketed because I know how quick they can get shot down. Zach, we know what this Phillies team is capable of and how quick they are to disappoint somebody in a matter of a second. If they can play good baseball all the way up to September, that's all I care about. Because Zach, we know
they got to play in September. That's where they fall apart every year.
But Zach, they have to play in the summertime. They don't play baseball in the summertime. They play before the summer, and then when summer ends, they start playing again. But today, I just saw what I saw today. I like what I saw. I'm gonna stand by this. The bullpen doesn't blow as many games as it did last year. Zach, they were actually one of the best teams in the NL. Find it hard to believe, but it was the truth. Zach, you say playoffs, I'll go with you on that. But they don't do it. I know who I can blame. You.
Look, I mean, if the pitching staff is just able to hold it together, and the offense is good, and you combine that with momentum, they can be the second seed or whatever you call it, second place in the best division in baseball. Plain and simple, that team is talented. You have the best catcher in baseball. You have a first baseman who, look, I'll tell you what matters. If Rhys Hoskins booms this year, this team's good. If they bust, he's not. If he busts, then they're not going to be that good. Gene Segura's got to be consistent. You need Didi to do his job, which he did very nice last year. He did it with the Yankees the year before that when he was able to carry them into the playoffs. Alec Bohm needs to grow. The pitching staff itself needs to grow. There's a lot of key guys that the Phillies are betting on, and that's why I can either see this team doing really well or doing mediocre to poor. That's kind of where I stand on it. And as we wrap up today, I know that the draft is getting underway for the All-Star game. Giannis picked first overall by Timo Braun, expected to be at least. But in all seriousness, I think that for the Sixers, I'm sorry not to say I'm getting into the basketball, for the Phillies, it's important for them to have these guys that need to grow. Alec Bohm, Rhys Hoskins, Scott Kingery, Aaron Nola needs to have a bounce back year. Zach Wheeler needs to keep doing Zach Wheeler things. Vince Velasquez, for some reason, is still here. They keep betting on him. He needs to be able to show up this year. Otherwise, this team is not going to be good. They need to compete. It's a tough division. We were very critical of them during the offseason when there would be moves made all around them. Lindor going here, Blake Snell going there. Phillies didn't make many moves except for re-sign JT and Didi. They got a lot to do this year.
Zach, you know where I stand, the bullpen. And I'm going to get on the same two guys I got on last year. David Robinson, are you done robbing money? Are you ready to come play? Are you ready to come pitch now? Are you ready? Are you ready to go? Is your what was it, Tommy John? What did he have? I don't even know what he had anymore. It's like 50 injuries.
Couldn't tell you.
Are you ready to go? Seranthony Dominguez, did you finally get your surgery? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to pitch now? Or are you still going to sit out and not do anything? I'm sick and tired of you guys not doing anything. Zach, we actually have a bullpen that can be decent. You got Archie Bradley now. You got the guy that was just fresh out of the World Series, Jose Alvarez, that throws up to 100 miles per hour. If Seranthony Dominguez can come back and give me somewhat decent production, and if,
no more Hector Neris blown saves.
And if Hector Neris cannot throw at someone's head for more than 5 pitches, all right? More than 5. It's that hard not to throw at somebody's head. I don't understand it. It's like I've never seen someone have that worst control ever, that you throw at somebody's head. I've never seen it before. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, before we end tonight's show, David Robinson, we got you from the Yankees. I was excited. You haven't really played much for us, and when you did, you were horrible. So are you just going to continue robbing money, or are you actually going to play? Ladies and gentlemen, the Phillies will go as far as their bullpen takes them. That's the truth.
Without a doubt, I think a combination of that and consistency from the offense. We'll have to see how it pans out. It's going to be an exciting season, less than a month away from opening day.
Oh, goodness.
We've already been through one season on this show. We're looking forward to another one and more to come. With that being said, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on tonight's special edition of the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show here live on the More Than Philly Sports Network. Thank you again for all your support. Stay tuned this weekend. We'll have more of a formal announcement tomorrow for some of our All-Star Game coverage. But with that being said, everybody, thank you so much and have a great, great night.
Have a good night, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts